as we kick off the month of August, I am glad to be bringing you the latest business stories across the country. My name is Diana Iriza and this is Business Digest. The 5th edition of the Africa Leadership Forum takes place in Kigali. Our second story will be looking at the Africa Trade Fair that is taking place here in Kigali. Lastly, on the segment of market trends, we'll be looking at the Consumer Price Index for the month of August. The 5th Africa Leadership Forum convenes in Kigali with 7 former African presidents putting their heads together to think of new ways of financing Africa's transformation for sustainable development. The meeting exchanged experiences and concrete ideas with a view to improve the continent's performance. Have a look at this. The 5th Africa Leadership Forum, organized by Uongozi Institute in collaboration with the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, was held in Kigali between the 2nd of August and 3rd, 2018 under the theme Financing Africa's Transformation for Sustainable Development. Uongozi officials say that participants will try to understand the current and emerging context for financing Africa's development, share successes and failures in national, regional, continental attempts to address specific financing challenges, and recommendations for unlocking increased financing for Africa's development. The United Nations Economic Commissions for Africa's EAC in May estimated that illicit financial flows for Africa are over $100 billion annually. Among the corrective measures to sustainably finance the continent's development, President Paul Kagame said including accountability, regional integration, and fostering the growth of African enterprises. On accountability, he said that by building trust that public funds will be spent on the right things, African governments can mobilize resources through tax collection. The president, who is also the current African Union chairperson, said that success of the financial reform of the African Union was proof of the continent's ability to fund common priorities. Through the financial reform, contributions to the organization's Peace Fund have gone up and member state contributions have become more stable.
We can't keep living with the understanding that somebody is there for us, that somebody is there to take care of us, that somebody there is there to provide for us. And this does not preclude partnership, does not preclude working with others. But we really have to start by being there for ourselves. And then from there, we work with others. Absolutely. So what we are trying to answer in all our discussions, I think, is this one. When does Africa stand for being there for itself? When does even every country, as we work together, which former President Obasanjo was saying, we must work together. But what do you bring in working together with the other? You have to bring something. Somebody else has got to bring something. And we've got to bring this continent to stand strongly together, but by bringing something that makes it stand firmly and strong as it should be.
Business Digest got to talk to the former president of the Republic of Tanzania, His Excellency Benjamin William Mkapa, who discussed on mobilizing more resources for development at the forum. He also mentioned the governments should also consider facilitating the development of businesses in their respective countries to have reliable tax receipts. And joining us now to talk to Business Digest on the Africa Leadership's Forum theme, that is financing Africa's transformation for sustainable development, is the former president of the Republic of Tanzania and the current president of the Africa Leadership's Forum, His Excellency President Benjamin Mkapa. Sir, it is an honor to have you here.
Pleasure for me.
Thank you so much for taking the time to have this interview.
Right.
Now, the Africa Leadership Forum has lasted for 5 years, and this year it's being held in Kigali, Rwanda. Why did you choose Rwanda?
I chose Rwanda because it reflected well the challenges that were being posed by the subject of the forum, which was mobilizing funding for sustainable development.
Great.
what are the conditions for that? First, you must have peace and stability. You must have national unity. You must have inclusive government. You must have enlightened leadership. All of that are to be found in Rwanda. Over and above that, I thought this would be a good forum for us to hear from the chairman of the African Union, who is President Kagame, President of Rwanda. But in addition to that, I thought it would offer an opportunity for participants to learn about the obstacles to avoid in their own planning and implementation of the transformation of their societies. And that is why at the end of the session today, I arranged that they should go and visit the Genocide Museum in order to see the horror, but also thereby to strengthen themselves to avoid such things happening again on the African continent.
Great. Speaking of leadership and the creation of leadership capabilities here in Africa, I'm sure there are a couple of challenges here and there. How would you address these challenges, and what are the solutions that African leaders can come up with to solve these challenges?
Well, the first challenge, of course, is the construction of national unity. You know, in many of our African countries, our multicultural, but much more multi-tribal. But even where you have only 3 or 4 or 5 tribes, the challenge is one of national unity and integration, particularly political integration. So that is the first challenge that you have to do. Then you have to organize an inclusive political organization and governance structures, so that no one is left behind or no one can feel that they are being excluded in the process of development, that benefits will be shared fairly and equitably between the society. That is the challenge that you face. So, governance institutions, and then economic policies. The economic policies must again be as inclusive as possible. And then you must have a system that establishes the rule of law and respects the equality of citizens, so that where there are errors that need to be corrected, they will not discriminate in that process, and that everyone will be entitled to justice. So these are the challenges. Now, the developed countries always describes us as developing, fragile, failed. It is where that process is not visible, or indeed is being diminished, that we are described as failed and underdeveloped. So that's the challenge that I see. But because once you establish that drive, that spirit of equality and unity, you will try to broaden the expanse of those you are covering in your unity, your brotherhood, your sisterhood, and so on. And therefore it leads to regional cooperation and ultimately continental development.
Awesome. Okay, thank you for sharing that information with us. We're going to move to the financing of the African Union by foreign countries. What is your opinion on this?
First, I congratulate President Kagame for his initiative to make us as self-dependent as possible.
Yeah, he has done an amazing job.
You know, I mean, that's true. I've had an English education, and there's an English phrase, the English aphorism, which says that he who pays the piper calls the tune. Obviously, if foreigners are financing your organization, they will call the tune of the organization. It's not good. So the initiative to make us finance our own organization, particularly on the key issues of unity, cooperation, and the international relations with the outside world, paying it ourselves is key to our identity, our honor, and really our standing in the world.
Great. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. We're going to conclude this interview with the last question. This is about illicit financial flows from Africa. What are the solutions that you think African leaders can come up with to stop this in Africa?
Well, first, you must have a clear tax policy and a collection, an administration which has integrity, which is comprehensive. You must have also an audit system, a national audit system, which has integrity and also comprehensive. And thirdly, you must have a banking system also, which has integrity and etc. But you must also have a watchful eye in the form of the law enforcement and the police administration to prevent those who want to use the panya routes to take currencies out of the country. That is very doable indeed. But ultimately, you must encourage the spirit of nation building. Taking money outside and putting it in Europe or America. You are building America, you are not building your own country. And although people say that finances abroad are more secure than in their own countries, no, that is not true. That is not true. So I'm hoping that that process of illicit transfer of assets will be declining in the years ahead. But you must have cooperation between countries too. For instance, transfers of money between countries. There must be cooperation on ways that ensures that there is no skullduggery involved in the process. That will hinder the process. But over and above that, at this forum, we have discussed the importance or the necessity or the urgency of the countries to which these assets are transferred of cooperating with our governments in order to make sure that the assets are returned where we are, in tracking the movement of those assets, but also in arranging for their return. And it can be done. So what we are urging African countries is to get together, get their act together, and put pressure on those countries to return our illicit trade assets.
All right, so thank you so much for taking the time to have this interview.
Thank you.
And the information you've shared, it has broadened my knowledge on everything I needed to know.
I hope so.
I'm sure it has done the same with the audience out there.
I hope so.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're still watching Business Digest. We still have more to come. Stay with us. The 21st Rwandan International Trade Fair, commonly known as Expo, is being held in Kigali, bringing numerous exhibitors to showcase their merchandise. Usually the exhibition lasts for 2 weeks. However, this year's edition is scheduled to run for 3 weeks through August 16th. The extension by a week is followed by a request by shoppers and exhibitors who noted that 2 weeks were not enough to showcase their merchandise. Over 500 exhibitors from 23 countries across the world are participating in the 2018 Expo. This is an increase from previous trade fairs when participating countries have varied between 17 and 19. The exhibition are attended by representatives of the private sector federation from Congo, Brazzaville, Angola, Gambia, with an aim to learn best practices. Business Digest got to talk to a few of these exhibitors to hear what they have to share with us.
Not bad because the time we started, the pro of the people and the client was low, because there are so many days, from 26th to 15th. You see there is that spark period of time. So people, we are expecting towards the last 1 week, towards the end, there will be a lot of people. Because you see, they are still working during the day, but in the evening they are coming. So the turnout is good and better and excellent, according to me. Because what I'm selling, it's on the market. Because I don't have anybody to compete with, and what I'm producing is the high quality compared maybe to the other artwork. Because what I'm selling, there are so many youth which are looking for these products. So whenever I start working in the morning, in fact the whole day I'm very busy.
They're responding good because actually everyone likes to be nice looking, good and beautiful. Skin is the most expensive thing to treat, we all know that. So we bring them in expos, we teach them how to use the things, and they work them for them. They're happy actually.
Actually, thank you. Actually, I'm so delighted because it's been a very, very, very successful. experience. This is our first time in exhibition. We've been there since the beginning of this year. But I can really thank PSF to organize this event, because we've been receiving a lot of variety of people, even contacts from out of the country. So it's really interesting. We have a very good response.
And on today's segment of Market Trends, I'll be bringing you the Consumer Price Index for the month of June 2018. The Urban CPI will be the focus of the publication, as it is the headline index for the monetary policy purposes. The Urban CPI increased by 2.9% on an annual basis and decreased by 0.9% on a monthly basis. The annual average rate between June 2018 and June 2017 was 2.3%. Looking into the Rural CPI, the rural CPI increased by 0.4% on an annual basis and decreased by 1.7% on a monthly basis. The overall Rwanda CPI increased by 1.4% on an annual basis and decreased by 1.4% on a monthly basis. The Urban Consumer Price Index is calculated based on approximately 1,622 products in 12 urban centers of Rwanda. The Urban CPI increased by 2.9% in June 2018 compared to the month of the previous year. This is mainly due to rising prices of food and non-alcoholic beverages 1.7%, housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuels 4.0%, and transport 8.8%. The monthly CPI decreased by 0.9% in June 2018. This is mainly due to food and non-alcoholic beverages, negative 1.8%, and housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels, negative 1.5%. The underlying inflation rate, excluding fresh food and energy, decreased by 0.2% compared to May 2018 and increased by 1.6% when compared to June 2017.
Make sure to catch up with us again next week. I am your host, Anna Iriza. Weekly business tips are up next. Thank you for watching and good night.